Top 3 Nightwish albums. And this is it. Now, for this top 3, I am actually going to talk about from the third to the first. There is a hierarchy here. It would really help if you could give me a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel because this is a very small channel still. We're trying to grow and we would really appreciate your help. Number 3 is Human Nature. If you want to hear more about this album, it was featured in a recent video I did, Top 5 Heavy Metal Album Releases of 2020. So I'm gonna keep it brief in this video, but if you do want to hear more, there's a link below in the description. This is a limited edition purple pressing that we have. We're very proud of it. There's a purple theme going on here today, if you haven't noticed. Oh yes! I also had a cake, a Nightwish cake. Ciao, here. This album was released in April 2020, second album with Floor in the vocals, and apparently last album with Marco. He recently left the band as of 2 weeks ago, as far as I remember, which leaves a big gap in the band because he was the bassist but also very prominent in the vocals. This album is very different from their previous releases because it went back to a non-orchestral production, at least for the first album, because it's a double album. The first one is just the band, the second one is purely orchestral. It's very vocal focused. They have 3 singers in the band now, or they had with Marco. The 3 of them sing sometimes together and sometimes each of them takes the lead in a song, like Harvest with Troy, Floor for most of them, Endlessness with Marco. This album is very warm and grounded. They don't rely on the epicness of the orchestra to pull on your heartstrings. It's just the pure melodies of the guitar and especially the singing that really do that job. My favorite track in this album is the first one. It's called Music. And the melody in this song is among the most beautiful things I have ever heard in my life. This song works as an intro to the album, but also as a first track. So the first part of the song is a long instrumental piece that has a lot of motion, has different moments in it. And only after that intro, they introduce the guitar for the first time. So it's a long time coming. And when they do introduce it, that guitar is just beautiful and majestic, and it elevates you. It's absolutely heavenly. Shoemaker is the third song, and it's the most epic they have ever sounded. It's purely operatic in the end of the song. There's this part that Floor pretty much sings on her own. It also elevates you, but in a darker way. It elevates you to the night sky. Tribal is the second last song. It's also worth highlighting. It kind of revisits the rough sounds of Romanticide from the album Once. The last song in the album, Endlessness, also revisits a song from Once. This time it's Higher Than Hope, which is also the last track of that album. It's a very slow tempoed and very Marco heavy. There's a lot of singing in this album. This is the main takeaway from it, I think. The melodies are incredibly complex and the acrobatics are very difficult according to the band members themselves. In this album, they really pushed the boundaries of the band, not so much in terms of sound, because like I said, they took a step back from the orchestra. They went back to how they were more in the beginning pre-Once, but it pushed the boundaries of the band technically, of the band members. Number 2, Imaginaerum. So this album, Imaginaerum, was released in November 2011. It's a concept album, and it's the most Nightwish of all Nightwish albums because it's about childhood, imagination, innocence, and it's a concept album about an old man who's dying and he's remembering his youth on his deathbed. This is the second and last album with Annette, and it's the last album with the drummer, Yuka. It's very much inspired by music soundtrack, which has always been Thomas' thing. It has a lot of Hans Zimmer in it, and they actually released a movie called Imaginaerum during this era. It's a very good movie. It's kind of hard to follow, but it's really good. I think it's a Finnish/Canadian production. This is a very experimental album. It pushes the boundaries of the sound of the band beyond the symphonic metal realm. So, examples of how this album is experimental. There's a track called Slow Love Slow. I think it's the third or fourth track. It's a jazz track. It's very sultry, very sexy. Annette sings with a lot of warmth in her voice. She goes high and low. She does it very theatrically, like she's playing a part of a jazz singer at a cafe or something. There's a stand-up bass. The drums are played with brushes. Everything is so different. Doesn't sound like metal at all, but it plays a part in the story of the album. Empu has a solo that I believe he improvised. It would make sense for a jazz track to have improvised guitar solo, and it's just same thing. Very sexy, very sultry, really sets that chill vibe that jazz songs do. Now, the next track that I want to highlight as an example of innovation is Scare Tale. This song, to me, it embodies everything that the album is about. It goes full on Marco, and he is like unleashed and he goes nuts, playing this part of like a crazy, fucked up in the head ringleader. And he sounds unhinged. And Annette is amazing in this track. She really uses all the best features of her voice, nasally and bright at the same time, and angry, super dramatic. She sounds scary and like, I don't know. It sounds like you're in a circus. This song it transports you early 20th century circus scene. And if you watch the movie, it is a circus. Now, I Want My Tears Back is the track before Scare Tale. It's the most played song live from this album. It has something the Nightwish is very good at, which is a very anthemic chorus that really gets the crowd going live. Ghost River continues the tradition of very exciting guitar riffs, very creative. Empu did such a great job. I remember the first time listening to this track, I was in the dark, laying down, listening to it with my earphones, and when Ghost River started, it's just the guitar, just the riff, and I was just like, oh my god, Empu! It was very like, oh, he always delivers. Empu deserves credit as one of the most song-serving, band-serving guitarists in metal. He knows his place in the band. He knows when he's supposed to come to the forefront and shine, like with an opening riff in Ghost River, but he also knows how to step back and let the song do its job without him at the forefront. Turn Loose the Mermaids is a very beautiful, delicate song that really stuck with me. It's maybe my favorite in the album. It's not heavy at all, there's no guitars, it's just percussion and I think some flute and Annette singing. It makes you feel like you're on a beach at sunset, laying on the sand with someone like your grandma with you, caressing your hair and telling you funny anecdotes. It's very cozy, very stripped down, low-key, beautiful. That's what it feels like to me. Song of Myself is the last song in the album before the reprise, which is the movie score that he did. It has this very long poem in the end, and it's narrated by different people. There's one main voice, which I believe is Troy's, and every single time I listen to this song, I cry. Every single time. So, personal note and kind of romantic one, this album is one of the reasons why Steve and I are together. We met online back in 2006 through The Black Halo by Camelot, but in 2011 we started talking again, and with the intention of being together through this album because he heard it and he reached out to me to talk about it. We were both very excited about it and we bonded romantically over this album. Now, during the tour of Imaginaerum, that's when Annette left the band mid-tour. And it's when Flores started being a guest singer in the tour. And it was so successful that number one, she joined the band, and number two, they released a DVD, Showtime Storytime, Wacken, 2013. And this is great because she offers a new take on songs from Imaginaerum and from the Tarja era. Number one on the list, my very favorite Nightwish album, one of my very favorite albums of all time. I am very excited about it to this day. I will always rave about it every time I'm given an opportunity. It's Once. It was released in June 2004. It was the fifth and last album with Tarja Turunen as the vocalist. At the time, it was the most expensive recording in Finnish history. And during this tour, they released their DVD, End of an Era. And it's absolutely incredible. It's epic. It's the band at their apex. And right after the show, they handed a letter to Tarja, kicking her out of the band. Sorry. Ugh. The album, compared to the previous ones, it sounded very fresh and creative, very, very ambitious and big. Compared to the previous albums, it's less power metal-y, which is something they kind of started with already in Century Child. It's more symphonic, but despite being less power metal, it's full of very catchy, hook-based songs. Now, I mentioned how Human Nature is very vocal heavy. This album is very guitar heavy, especially compared to Century Child and everything that came before. Right from the get-go with the first track, the guitars just blow up. A lot of overdrive, very heavy and very at the forefront in the production. This is the first album where they actually used a full, real orchestra for the symphonic parts. This album to me represents a reinvention of their symphonic metal aesthetics that they had already established and become the reference for. Even with the booklet, when you look at it, the colors are very light. It's all white. The cover itself is lavender, right? It's like lavender and white. So it's not dark, it's not somber, it's very light. But in this album, they took that formula of symphonic metal, which is, you know, the mix of heaviness of metal with symphonic parts and the female operatic vocals, and they stretched it to the edges in a way that the dichotomy between the heaviness and the female vocals became even bigger, and the effect was emphasized. And it was emphasized because not only the band became heavier, but Tarja's vocals became softer and more delicate. So they exaggerated a formula that already existed, maximizing that contrast that is what makes symphonic metal so cool. Now, continuing on the topic of innovations and reinvention, one example is the second track, Wish I Had an Angel. It's very heavy, the riff is very heavy and gripping, but they added this dance floor disco beat that is odd. It's very odd because it's very poppy with a very heavy riff and Marco's destructive vocals in the chorus. Another example of innovation or experimentation in this album is the song The Siren. The guitar is very... It's not like a wah-wah effect, but it's very rounded like an elastic. The solo of the song is not done by Empo, it's just a violin solo. But the violin in this track is essential because it creates a very eerie mood. The siren luring a sailor into his demise. They put a lot of echo for the violin, and the violin is very virtuous, very fast, menacing. It creates this aura of danger and doom. Another incredible innovation, experimentation that they did in this album, the song Dead Gardens. This is probably the softest that Tarja sounds in the whole album. At the same time that the guitars keep punching you on the face, and especially in the end, they end the song with an outro that is no vocals, just a riff. It's a very short riff that just repeats itself for over a minute, and it goes from one distortion effect to the next. They just change the distortion. This repetition of this riff creates a sense of obsession, which goes with the song because the song is about Tuomas giving up his poetry and his music. The end, with this riff going on and on and on and on, and you feel like it's a record skipping, goes with the idea of not wanting to let go of that craft, obsessively not wanting to give up on it, and it ends abruptly. The very first track in the album, which is heavy as fuck, and it's Dark Chest of Wonders, my favorite Nightwish song ever. Dark Chest of Wonders opens the album with a line spoken almost in whisper. Once I had a dream and this is it. And then the guitar comes in and punches you on the stomach. And that punch is the heaviest that Nightwish had ever sounded up to that moment. We cannot talk about Once without mentioning Ghost Love Score. Ghost Love Score is the epitome of epic symphonic metal. It has become the blueprint for symphonic metal, long masterpiece style of music. And this song is so important for the band because it was the song that established Floor Jansen as their next singer after Annette, because of that Buenos Aires concert that they released a live video for. This song, Ghost Love Score, she delivers the floorgasm to humanity, a gift to all of us, because of the way that she improvises additional vocal lines at the end of Ghost Love Score that are not present in the studio version. She just ad-libbed, and it's and I mean, it's not even operatic. She belts it on your face. She fucking belts it. It's so epic. It's so exciting. It's like Flora is so good and she's so perfect for Nightwish that she was like, I'm gonna convince you all that I should be the next singer. I'm gonna take the most epic symphonic song of the most epic symphonic band and I'm gonna make it even better. And she does it. How? Bam. This album was the only one by Nightwish that I actually went to see the tour. They were touring this back in 2004 and I went to see them with my mom and my best friend. And Ghost of Score, ever since that tour, has become the expected moment of their concerts. Everyone is waiting for the moment they play Ghost Love Score. I love the band. I've been to 4 Nightwish concerts. One of the times I saw them was in 2016. It was the night before my husband's birthday. We went backstage and we actually met Marco and Empu. We got these from that tour. This one is signed. It's pretty cool. Now in April 2018, they came here with the Decades tour. And that was a very special one because, number one, there was no opening band. It was just them. And it was like an actual theater. I went VIP. There was a meet and greet. During it, I asked Tuomas to write a fragment of the lyrics for Dark Chest of Wonders, my favorite Nightwish song, with his own handwriting because I want to tattoo it with his own handwriting. And so he did. He wrote, "Fly to a dream far across the sea." This is going to become a tattoo. And here's this signed poster. During that era, we also bought Decades, the golden vinyl. I love this band to death. And this is it. These were my top 3 Nightwish albums in order. I hope you enjoyed it. Please leave your comments below. Tell me if you agree. Tell me your favorite songs, your memories from concerts. Let me know in the comments. Let's have a conversation about it. Thanks for watching and I'll see you on my next video.